Hello, welcome back. My name is Dr. Christopher Gennari, and this is Great Big History Podcast. And we're going to continue in part 2 of part 3 of our settled people. So when we left off, kings had a new power, and that was coercion. The coercion to gain taxes, to redistribute wealth from some people who had money to other people who needed it for whatever the reason may be. Usually, in our period, we're talking about building walls. So kings are more powerful than chiefs. Now, nomadic governments don't have coercive powers. They couldn't make anybody do anything because it's one dude, it's one chief. So he has to persuade people. He has no coercion. If the people don't want to go into that valley, they won't go. If they don't want to fight a battle, they won't do it. He can manipulate, he could be charismatic, he can beg and plead, but he can't coerce. So kings gain a coercive power. Like the IRS, people don't like the IRS. Why? Because it can make you pay your taxes. It can come to you, it can come into your house, it can go into your finances and say, you must pay taxes. And people are like, no, I don't like that power. Well, of course you don't like that power. Because it's a power you don't have. It's against you. It's bigger than you. So the answer is just pay your taxes. And you don't have to worry about the IRS. Like, I don't understand these commercials that are on Fox News. And they're overwhelmingly, like, you don't see them on CNN. You see them on, and you don't see them on MSNBC. I don't know why they're on Fox News. I don't know why the advertisers look at Fox News people and say, I'm going to advertise on this channel. And if the advertisement is, are you $20,000 in debt? And the IRS is knocking on your door, we can help you. And it's like, whoa, what do you mean? You haven't paid $20,000 in taxes? How is that even possible? The government, like, your place of work already takes that money out. Like, the place of work already deducts that money. Like, how did you do that? Like, did you just say, I'm not paying taxes for like years? So, it's kind of weird. I don't understand it, but they have a coercive power. And of course you don't like anyone having a coercive power over you. It's coercive. It sucks. Totally understand that. So that brings us to our next situation, which is how to protect people from nature. Problem 2, protect people from nature. Because we need nature to work for us. And I'm sorry that the font is really small at the moment. Well, hopefully it will get bigger. It's not supposed to be this small. It's something weird in the video PowerPoint. Because on the regular one, it's the regular 28 font. Okay. So protect people from nature. Remember we talked about how you need nature to work for you. You need the sun to shine, but not too much. You need the rivers to flood, but not too much. And you need the rain to fall, but not too much. You need lots of other things to happen, but not too much. Well, what people do is create polytheism. They create gods, multiple gods, one god in charge of each thing. We'll have multiple gods. We'll have polytheism. We have multiple gods. That's literally what polytheism is. And each god controls an aspect of nature. And we're going to assemble them into a pantheon. They're all homeboys. They all get along. Like, they're not the best of friends, but they're not separate. The pantheon is the group. And they're all together. Many of them are related. Lots of them are brothers and sisters. And other ones, they're homeboys and they're friends. And other ones, they're nieces and nephews. Like Athena literally came out of Zeus's head. So when Athena and Poseidon get into a fight over Odysseus in the Odyssey, Athena is Poseidon's niece. She is the daughter of Zeus, and Zeus is the brother of Poseidon. Poseidon's the younger brother of Zeus, which means she's his niece when she stands up to him. So these gods in what's called a pantheon hang out together. The Greek gods hung out in Mount Olympus. They're homeboys, and they don't always get together like you don't always get together with your homeboys. You're not always the best of friends all the time and agree on everything. That's these gods. But they speak the same language. They have the same culture. They look the same. And so they're related. So why do people have polytheism? And the reason why people have polytheism is it creates a relationship with the gods, which creates a relationship with nature. The relationship is a contract. I give you sacrifice for protection. What do these gods want? They don't want money. They have money. They're gods. They live forever. So they don't need worshipers either. Like, dude, that's kind of icky. Like, worship. I don't need to worship. So what it is sacrifice. Give me 3 goats. Give me something you like. Give it to me that I like too. Show me that you respect me. You don't worship. Like, monotheism is worship because you have the right God who's all-powerful in all things. And polytheism, you don't worship these gods. You respect these gods. You know they have power, and you respect their ability to mess your life up. So you have to respect that. And so when the gods say, give me 3 goats, you say, okay, I'll give you 3 goats. It's like a Mexican standoff. Like, if you ever saw the British movie, Two Locked Smoking Barrels, Locked Smoking Barrels, something like that. Or if you saw Reservoir Dogs, the end of Reservoir Dogs, and you have a Mexican standoff where everyone's got guns pointed at each other, like, everyone has to respect the fact that everybody else has a gun in this situation, and that gun could be or is pointed at them. Which means you have to respect the fact that the other guy could shoot you. So you don't worship the other guy because he has a gun. You respect the fact that he's got power. And that's what these people do. The contract respects the fact that the gods have power over the sea, over the river, over the sky. But it also binds them, gives you control over the uncontrollable by saying, all right, I'll give you 3 goats, but you make it rain just enough. That's control over nature. And that is a huge advantage. I can't tell you how huge that advantage is because it's indescribable how huge it is, because you're talking about gaining control over the uncontrollable. You can't make it rain, and now you can. You can't make the sun shine. Like, no matter what you do in your life, you will not make the sun shine. The sun comes up and goes down on its own. It doesn't care about you. It's been doing it for 15 billion years. It did it long before you. It will do it long after you. It don't matter. No matter what you do, you can't stop it. You can't start it. But now, you can make a deal with it. And that deal gives you that little bit of control that's going to shine just right. Not too much. Not too little. You gain a little bit of control over nature. So the advantages of polytheism. You start with, you gain control over the uncontrollable. That's a huge advantage. The second is the gods are superhuman. They're people. Like, Zeus is a person. He's a man. He's tall. He's old, but he's a man. So he acts like a man. He has man's desires. He's understandable. Dionysus likes to party. So what does his sacrifice? Wine, drink, and good food. Like, that's it. You can understand what he wants. Like, no matter what you do, when it comes to Dionysus, you're like, what do I get Dionysus this year? Wine and smoked meats. That's what we get him. We get him a couple porterhouse steaks, and we get him a whole lot of wine, and we're good. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Like, you can understand them, which means you can negotiate with them. Now, I'm an ignorant farmer. I don't understand nothing. So I'm not negotiating with them. That's where the priests come in. We have a bunch of professionals whose job it is to ask the gods what they want, to then tell the people what the gods want, and to make sure everything is copacetic. Everything gets done. That's the priest's job, to be the in-between, the middleman between the gods and the people, and to help make sure that relationship stays cool, that everyone does what they're supposed to do, that the gods do the nature stuff, and that the people do the sacrifice stuff. That's their job. This third advantage The next advantage is you get protection. It's one of these gods. There's 12 major gods in most of these religions. In the Egyptian religion and the Greek religion, now there are multiple ones after that, but there are 12 big ones. One of them has to like you. This is Odysseus. This is Odysseus right down. This is the Odyssey. Athena loves Odysseus. Loves Odysseus. It's like, don't worry, Odysseus. I am going to help you. You're my homeboy. And so she helps him time and again. And not just him. Helps his kids. Helps his wife. Time and again. She makes sure stuff keeps moving on. You have a God who protects you. So if the God of the river likes you, yeah, when that river floods, guess what? It's coming. The flood is coming. The flood. It's diverted right away from you. Or the God of light and fire is your homeboy. Really likes you. The forest fire is coming. It's coming. It's coming. Oh, it misses your house. It goes around you. How? How is that possible? God of fire. My homeboy. So some God, one God has to like you. Out of the 12 or more out of that, you've got to gain the personal protection of one of them. You can't be that much of a jerk. Next, everybody participates. This is community. Everybody does it. Everybody shows up. You have unity of a God's holy worship sacrifice day is a party. It's one of the few days everybody gets to eat meat because you're going to burn a bunch of goats. After they're burned, you're like, hey, let's cut off the pieces. Someone's got to eat it. So, God's already got it. They got the smoke. They got to enjoy the barbecue. We'll cut off the meat. We'll share it with the poor. We'll share it with people. Everybody participates. So you have a community. It's a big party. It's like a giant block party. Everybody brings out their food. Everyone participates. It's a wedding. I know plenty of people who don't go to the wedding. I am not one of those people. I go to the wedding. I feel very proud of this. I always go to the wedding ceremony, to church, the synagogue, wherever it is. I go to it. But I know plenty of people who don't go to the ceremony just to go to the party. And the whole point of the party is the celebration. Hey, we're going to have a wedding. I've been to weddings where 5 people have been at the wedding. And you go to the reception. It's really a party. You go to the party and it's like 200 people. And you're like, where were all you people? I'm still in the suit from earlier. Why are you people in party pants? Like, how did this happen? They don't want to do the boring part. They want to do the party part. And the party is supposed to be the reward for dealing with the boring part called the wedding. But the wedding is the celebration part. The wedding is hey, we're watching it happen. So I do both parts. If you're one of my students, just don't be that person who just shows up to the reception if you can avoid it. Sometimes it's unavoidable. I understand that. If you're traveling over great distances and whatnot, I understand that. If you're not asked to go to the wedding because it's for a variety of reasons not open to you, like you're in a Mormon temple and you're not Mormon, like, okay, that's different. But if you make a conscious decision to just go to the party, the fun part, because you can't be bothered with the boring part, like, that says more about you and about what you think about community. And everyone participates in this. When the God of rain has a party, it affects everybody. Why? Because rain affects everybody. It doesn't not rain on one house. It rains on every house. When the sun shines, it shines on every farm. Everybody participates. And so it gives the community a sense of unity. It's a thing everybody shares. Think, if you're Catholic especially, but Christian as well, Christmas and Easter masses. Like, you go to church all year and it's like a third full. And then you go to church on Christmas and like everybody's there. And Christmas, and Sunday and midnight mass for Christmas is full of people. And everyone's like, hey, I see you and I see you and I see you. Hey, how you doing, Doug? And Doug's like, yeah, man, how are you doing? You're like, yeah, it's Christmas. And everybody's happy. Finally, there's no rules of moral behavior. Like, these gods are people. So they do all the stuff people do. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they act honorably. They observe conventions and contracts. They're loyal. They're strong, but they also cheat and steal. Everybody does this. I know people who are ministers, who are people of the cloth, who are married to people of the cloth, and they're liars, and they're cowards, and they're cheaters. Why? Because they're people. And so the gods reflect that. Now, they don't think they're liars and cheaters, but they are. And that's the way it is. When given a chance to stand up and tell the truth, they lie. Because lying is easier than telling the truth if the truth is uncomfortable. And that's what people do. So when they made gods, when they looked at the gods, they said, they just lie bigger. People get drunk. Gods get super drunk. Like Dionysus doesn't drink a bottle of wine. Dionysus drinks a lake of wine. Zeus doesn't cheat on his wife with one girl. He cheats on his wife with hundreds of girls. There's actually a 3-page description in the Iliad where Hera, wanting the Greeks to win, when Zeus basically sits down and goes, I'm done with this war. It's over. The Trojans are going to win. I'm going to sit here. All of you shut up. I'm tired of, for the first 5, 6, 7 chapters of this story, all we've had is bickering with you different gods as you fight among each other over who should win, the Trojans or the Greeks. The Trojans are going to win this war. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to get it done. Done. Over. Go, Troy. Go, Hector. Kick some butt. And this is the great scene where the Trojans attack. They're pushing the Greeks back to the boats. It looks like they're going to win. It's the super climax of the battle. And what happens? Hera wants the Greeks to win. So Hera goes to Aphrodite. Now, Aphrodite wants the Trojans to win. But Aphrodite also likes love and sex. And so Hera goes to Aphrodite and says, I know it's a weird time, but I totally want to seduce Zeus right now, and I can think of nobody better to help me do that than you, Aphrodite. And Aphrodite's like, oh, this is awesome. Girl, you have no idea how long I have waited to do this. We're going to get you done up. We're going to do your hair. We're going to put makeup on. We're going to get your great dress. And she's like, yeah. I don't have time for that. Just give me something that's like a slinky and makes me look sexy. She's like, no, we're going to do the whole thing. Because this is like in Aphrodite's wheelhouse. So they get Hera up. The Greeks are losing. It's a disaster. Men are being killed. Hector is like everywhere. Hector is like the man of all seasons. He's on the ramparts. He's on the ships. He's burning things down. He is everything, everywhere. He is the MVP of the battle. And Zeus is just sitting there watching this, being like, done. This is over. Finally, I'm going to get peace and quiet around the gods. And then Hera walks in and she's all done up. Her hair is all awesome, like in the Hercules animated movie. And she's got the long slinky dress that's kind of see-through when the light is on it just right. And the light is on it just right. Aphrodite is there, positioning the sun to make sure it shines right through. And Zeus looks up and goes, hey, Hera. And then looks up again and goes, wow, I have never seen you look so beautiful. It's just like. And then he goes into a 2 or 3-page description of all of the different women who he has been seduced by or seduced and had sex with. And all the women he has cheated on Hera with. Now, yeah, it's a beautiful scene. It is a well-written scene. Homer is rocking when he does this scene. But you have to imagine, like, Hera is like her. The Greeks are losing. Hera is like tapping her fingers, being like, yes, yeah, the 16-year-old, yeah, the virgin, yeah, yes, the unicorn, yes, I got it. You were a veil of gold, yes, I got it. You went as a dragon, oh, okay. Are you done yet? No, I got 2 more pages to go. Hold on, Hera, I got to tell you all the women I've slept with. It's a whole giant long thing. Now, the idea is that Hera eventually seduces Zeus. Zeus forgets about the battle. Because now Zeus isn't helping the Trojans win, the Greeks are able to fight their way back. Gods get involved. Gods come down. Because Zeus is now he's occupied. So, like, the pro-Greek gods are like, I'm going to take this moment and fly on down there and help them out. But Zeus doesn't sleep with just one woman. He sleeps with a ton of women. When he cheats, he cheats. Big capital letters. When you get drunk, you get drunk. Blotto. Smashed. When you get high, and gods get high all the time, when you eat, they do everything in excess. They do everything people do. And they don't care that humans do it. Why? Because they do it. So there's no rules. You want to cheat on your wife? Go cheat on your wife. I don't care. Give me my sacrifice. The only thing these gods care about is that contract, that sacrifice. You uphold your end, they should uphold their end. They don't always uphold their end. But, we have civilization, so they did enough. But they don't have rules about moral behavior. Now, when we get to monotheism, there are 611 commandments about moral behavior. There are 40 rules about what to eat. There are 40 rules about sex in the Old Testament. There are rules about everything. Jesus comes along, and Jesus is all about morality. He's all about how one should act. Constantly telling people, you're an idiot. Stop acting this way. Start acting the right way. He goes Kung Fu Jesus on the money changers. Why? Because they're all liars and cheaters. And they turn the house of God into a den of thieves, as the quote in the Old Testament, in King James Version goes. That it's all about morality. They're liars, they're cheaters, they're stealers. That monotheism is about rules about caring. Look at your 10 commandments. They're all about morality. They're all about behavior. There is no polytheistic equivalent to the 10 Commandments. There just isn't. It's about contracts. And that is very freeing. It means no matter what you do, it's not bad. All of that stuff you do in your bedroom after your parents think you've turned off the light and gone to sleep, Zeus don't care. In fact, Zeus is very proud. He's like, yeah, do it. Have fun. That's what we're supposed to do. We're gods. We do that all the time. It's all right. Everything is cool because it's what people do. So there's no morality. It's not that there's no morality. It's that the gods don't hold your behavior to strict punishments. So what are the disadvantages of polytheism? The first is what we just talked about. These gods are superhuman, which means they have human weaknesses. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they forget things. They are inconsiderate. They break up with you. They don't uphold contracts. They are shitty to their friends. Even their good friends, when it suits them. They're cowards at times. They're brave at times, they're cowards at times. They are unreliable. And if you look at the books that come out of Mesopotamia, you look at the polytheistic relationship of people to their gods, and this includes the Old Testament Hebrews, it is a masochistic relationship. It is, here I'm going to do stuff for you, and you're probably going to be mean to me, but I'm going to try anyway. Why? Because nature can't be controlled, and if nature goes bad, you're screwed. The river floods, you are here. You have a Noah story. The oldest story in human civilization is Gilgamesh. That has a flood in it. Now, the Hebrews will take that flood story and make it their own and make it the Noah story. And Noah is literally a character in the Gilgamesh story. But even though the Gilgamesh story is 1,000 years older, so understand that. They are not the same story. But a flood story in which everybody dies. The Hebrews have a story in which God murders everybody and all the animals. Everything. Like, what did a hedgehog do to deserve to be drowned? But Gilgamesh did the same thing. Gilgamesh doesn't do it. The gods of Gilgamesh do the same thing. They're like, yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to murder everything. I'm going to drown the world. For giggles. So, how do you live in a world where you could be drowned at any time by a giant flood that you can't control? And so these gods have weaknesses. They're undependable. Second is a god may hate you. Again, we go to Odysseus. We go, if you're watching the video, we're on Fight Club. Listen to me. You have to consider the possibility. Brad Pitt tells Edward Norton that God does not like you, that God will not help you, that God may hate you. This is Odysseus. Poseidon wants to kill Odysseus. Odysseus blinded his son, the Cyclops, and Poseidon says, I'm going to murder him. I'm going to drown him. He is on a boat on the ocean, and I am the god of the ocean. I'm going to murder him. This SOB thinks he could get away with blinding my son. I'm going to show him another thing. He's just a person. And that's when Athena shows up. Remember we talked about the advantages of Game, and she says, no, I'm not going to let you do it. And he's like, he's on a boat on the ocean. That's my domain. Yes, it is. So I'm going to send a giant storm, and I'm going to destroy his boat, and he's going to drown. He's like, he's not going to drown. What do you mean he's not going to drown? He's on the ocean. I'm going to send a dolphin to protect him. Well, I'm going to send a shark to eat the dolphin. Well, then I'm going to send a hawk to pick him up out of the ocean, protect him from the shark. And we could do this all day. And Poseidon says, fine. Am I still god of the ocean? Yes, of course, you're god of the ocean, uncle. Yes, stop being old and cranky. Fine. So I'm going to put them on that ocean, and I'm going to send them to that place and this place and the other place and other places. Can I do that? Or are you going to get involved? Nope, that's your domain. You can send them wherever you want. You control the tides. I'm going to send him all over the place, and he's going to hit these islands. And if they happen to kill him on those islands, then I didn't kill him. And Athena says, that's fair. So if he goes to the island of the witches, and the witches eat him, turn him into a pig and eat him, I didn't kill him. If he goes to Calypso, a goddess, and she kills him instead of falls in love with him, I didn't do it. If he goes to the island of whatever, the Lotus Eaters, and he gets so high he doesn't want to ever leave, that's not my fault. And Athena's like, yep, that's cool. That's fair enough. Now, Athena will kind of work to get him back on the ocean so he could go to the next place, and hoping sooner or later he'll bounce around back to Ithaca. That sooner or later Zeus is going to get involved and be like, look, I'm done with this. Send them to Ithaca. But the idea is, if you have a god that hates you, you're in trouble, man. And you're bound to have a god that hates you. Because they're all doing things. They all have their own petty squabbles. So you may be the homeboy of a god that has a fight with another god, and that god says, well, I'm going to kill you because you're my enemies. You're the enemy. You're the friend of my enemy, which makes you my enemy. So you got problems. Finally, these are communal activities. So you don't get independence. You don't get privacy. You don't have the right to not participate in polytheistic things because everybody has to sacrifice. Because when it rains for everybody. And when the sun shines, it shines for everybody. You have to participate. So this is what's going to happen. The priests are going to come out of their temples and say, 3 goats. You got to burn 3 goats. On Tuesday, we're going to burn 3 goats. So buy your goats now. Get them ready. And Wednesday happens. And Thursday, we got a week. Next Tuesday. Thursday happens. Friday comes along. Hey, Bobby? Hi. Notice you don't have any goats in your yard. So you got to get ready for the Fire, Sky God, Rain God Festival. 3 goats, due Tuesday. Yeah, I'll get to it. I'm going to get to it. No worries. Oh, okay. Cool. All right. See you on Tuesday. My goats, I got goats in my yard. They could use friends. Just saying. Friday happens. Saturday happens. Sunday happens. Hey, notice you still don't have goats. You want to go down to the goat yard, goat guy, and buy some goats? I'll go with you. We'll pick out some good ones. I know him. He'll give you a good price. Yeah, that's great. Thanks. But no, I'm going to stay. I'll do it. Don't worry. It's Tuesday. I still have a couple days. Oh, okay. Tuesday happens. Big celebration. People burn their goats. First, they had to kill the goats. They had to slaughter the goats, and then they burn them. Burn the goats. Hey, Bobby. It's your neighbor. Noticed you didn't buy any goats. Noticed you haven't burned any goats. Got only a couple hours left till midnight. Got to get that done. Oh yeah, I'm totally gonna do it. No problem. I'll go get it now. Hour passes, maybe 2. Hello, Bobby. It's your neighbor and all your neighbors from on the block. We got Jenny on the block down there. Everybody on the block is like, gonna buy some goats, get some goats. Right, guys? Yeah. Yeah. We all want you to get some goats. We want you to participate. Come out to the party. Buy some goats. Come to the party. It's great. We're having a great time. Your kids, we'll let them play with our little kids. It'll be fun. We're having a great time. Yeah, okay, well, I'll get to it. I gotta put my shoes on. It's a little weird. Don't worry. A couple more hours pass, and you open up the door. Bobby opens up the door. Oh, and it's, hey, Bobby, it's your neighbor. All the people on the block, all the people from a couple blocks over, 3 priests, and we got 6 goats. Thanks for inviting us in. Everybody comes walking into the house, and they start pulling stuff off the shelves to get food, and they start putting spices, and they're like, we're going to bring the goats in. We're going to have a sacrifice. We're going to do the thing. Here you go. Oh, and by the way, they go over to your money bank and pull out some bills to cover the price of the goats, and boom, done, taken care of. And we're going to, hey, it's so great that you hosted all of us here. Thanks for giving us wine, and we're going to take the money to get the goats. We know you're totally cool with it. Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking was going to happen. Yeah, great. You're not allowed to be private. You're not allowed to not participate. You have to participate. You have to, because it rains on everybody. The sun shines on everybody. So you have to participate. You have no privacy. Your neighbors are going to watch you and make sure you participate. Your kids are going to make sure you participate. Because everybody does it. You know your kids are sitting there. You have a 14-year-old daughter. She's like, Dad, let's go. Everybody's going to be there. Why are you embarrassing me? The boys are going to be there. All my friends are going to be there. Let's go to the goat burning. Why you have to be so stupid? Well, I don't think it's time for you to meet those boys. I got my reasons. Dad, you're so uncool. Yeah, well, that's probably true. But oh well, you're my daughter, so. And so all of the social pressure is making you participate. You have to participate, whether you want to or not. So that's a disadvantage because maybe you don't want to participate. Maybe you don't want to go to Sunday Mass. Maybe you don't want to sacrifice the 3 goats and incur the cost. And not just because you're a selfish jerk, but you don't want to be part of this. Remember, we'll talk about the Hebrews later. What about the Hebrews that are part of the 10 lost tribes up in Assyria? They have to now burn Assyrian goats to Assyrian gods, and they're like, I don't want to do that. I have my Hebrew God. And everyone's like, yeah, that doesn't count. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, we'll get there in the Hebrew section. But it's if you're a prisoner of war and you've got carted off to a place, you have to worship someone else's gods, whether you like to or not. So the communal activity is good because everyone participates in it. But it's also a disadvantage because everybody participates in it. And finally, you're reliant on priests who are smarter than you. There is no you're not. They're trained priests. They are trained to know, to read, to write, to know what the symbols of the gods are. Like they can read the entrails of birds. They can know on the flying of the gooses. They know what the symbols are that mean burn 3 goats. They know. They are well trained. And if you're like, oh, you're making all this stuff up. 1, they're not. And 2, they have all the books from hundreds of years. saying it was, here's a pattern of what these gods wanted. They wanted 5 goats and 3 goats and 2 goats, and then 5 goats and 3 goats and 2 goats, and then 5 goats. So we're going to give them 3 goats. And you're like, oh, wow, how'd you figure that out? And you may go, well, it's just a pattern. But if you're not trained to recognize patterns, you wouldn't know. You're trained to recognize patterns being in a modern civilization. You're not an illiterate farmer. Now, my pattern is so simple, they probably would have figured it out anyway. But the idea is that priests are smarter than the regular people. That's their job. Their job is to know what the gods want. And you're reliant on them. When they say burn 3 goats, you have to trust that they're getting that right. But see, if they get it wrong, if they mess up, you're in trouble, because it doesn't rain for everybody. Now, I get students who will always say, well, they're just making it up. These priests are just stupid. They're living the high life in their temples, and they're just making it up. No. No. Why? Because you come out and you say, sacrifice 3 goats. And people go, holy shnikes, that's a lot of money. I got to buy 3 goats. Or I have to kill 3 goats I have, which means I don't get butter, I don't get milk, I don't get anything for this. I got to kill these things. Okay. Better be right about this, because a sacrifice is a sacrifice. That's the reason it has its name. So you better get it right. And what happens if it still doesn't rain? Well, my crops die from drought. I'm going to starve. Am I going to just be like sad and sit in my farm and be like, oh, I wish it would rain? No, I'm going to knock with 100 of my friends from the block that hasn't had rain in 6 months. I'm going to knock on that temple. I'm going to be like, that priest, who's the rain priest, bring him out. We have something to tell him. The only thing that you may say, oh, priests are useless. Well, the only thing that's more useless than a priest is a priest who's wrong. You don't need that guy. Anybody can be wrong. You need priests, and they are incredibly important to be right. Now, think about this. They have nothing modern to go on. You're mad that the weatherman is wrong half the time. And after 5 days, your prediction goes to about 50%. After about 5 days. For the first 3 days, if you look at the 3-day forecast, they're going to be pretty right. They're pretty good on that. After that, the likelihood of them being right goes down significantly. 10 days out, you're guessing at that point. You got like a 25% chance. Maybe it's more now with the more technology, but you don't know. And you're mad at these people. Oh, that meteorologist. And think about what the meteorologist has. College, education, science, radar, satellites, photography. They have a bevy of information that ancient world priests had no access to. The ancient world priests literally had to figure it out what the gods wanted and hope they were right. And if they were wrong, it was going to get real fast, because the people were going to be angry. Because they're now in trouble, and before they starve, they're going to take it out on you. So you all go down together. There is no drought that the rain priest survives. There's just not. He's the first casualty. It was supposed to rain 2 weeks ago. Rain priest, want to come and tell us why that's not happening? Oh, well, yeah, I might have gotten that wrong. And that's the last words that guy is saying without being tied to something on fire. So you're reliant. You can't have polytheism by your own. You can't do it. You need someone smarter to help you with this. Now, monotheism, at least until the Protestant Reformation, works the same way. Judaism does, and so does Catholicism and Orthodox Christianity. You can't be a poor peasant and read the Torah. You don't know. Can't read. First of all, you can't read. Second of all, it's a language you don't speak. Hebrew will be different than the Aramaic of the Syrian languages. That will be the spoken languages of the Middle East, much less Greek. So what are you going to do? You're a poor peasant. You don't know. So you need a priest to come and say, okay, I'm going to read you these words, and then that will explain. Then I'll explain it to you. That's why a bar mitzvah, the most important part of the bar mitzvah is the reading, because it means you could read God's law yourself. You're literate. You're not an illiterate farmer. Now, Catholicism takes till 1965 to get that far. It will read to you this thing in Latin that you don't understand, and it will say, okay, now let me explain it to you, because you're a dumb peasant, but it's okay. So you're reliant on somebody else to help you get to heaven. You're reliant on somebody else to know what God wants in the Old Testament. You're reliant on a priest to help you with polytheism, which means you're weak. You're in a disadvantageous position. So this leads to success. You get cities. Cities will spread up the rivers from Sumer in the south, the southern Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia. And as you move north, it becomes Sumer, which is the oldest part. Then the middle part of the river becomes Akkad, which is all the people who are leaving Sumer to get away from all the rules and regulations and all the they need more farmland, and they can't buy the land. It's too expensive. So they're moving out to basically the suburbs, and that's Akkad. And then the people who really want to get away from it are like in Assyria. Now, it's going to be named Assyria much later, but that tells you something about it. It didn't have a name. It was so far north, about 800 miles north. It was so far north, people didn't even have a name for it. There are so few. It's like the territories, the northwest territories in Canada and the northern territories in Australia. It is a place that's like, we don't even have a name for it. So we'll just like call it Assyria, because there's going to be Assyrians in it. And what that brings us, that success will bring us to our next lecture, which is on the Cosmopolitan Revolution of Babylon, which will solve the final problem. It takes Babylon and a massive city, the massive city in Akkad called Babylon, which is a revolution. It's a massive trade-based city of 250,000 people in a world of 5,000 person cities. It is different from everything else. That will make the revolution in how do we deal with people within our society that we don't get along with? How do we make the poor get along with the poor, and the rich get along with the poor, and the poor get along with the rich, and the super rich get along with the rich? How do we get all these people who should be killing each other to work together? And it's going to take the revolution, the Cosmopolitan Revolution of Babylon, and the Code of Hammurabi, one of the great lawgivers of history. He is so great, he is etched. I literally mean this. He is etched into the frieze of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has the 5 great lawgivers of the ancient world: Moses, Hammurabi, Moses, Solon of Athens, and 2 more who I know but don't know off the top of my head. I think one is Muhammad, and I don't know who the 5th one is. And then there's the 5 modern lawgivers, who I don't think I know really at all. But they're all famous names, but I don't really know them. But the idea is that it's going to take the revolution of Babylon, a massive city, to finally solve the problem of how do people living together in a city live together in a city. And that's what we'll pick up next time. Thank you.